Date is December 14th, 2023, and today we're going to be talking about the state of digital experience in retail. And with me, I have a very special guest, Monica Provenza, who has actually been a great client of G&Co, but most importantly, she's actually the director of Omnichannel Experience at Psycho Bunny, one of the most interesting brands that we see right now that it's growing like crazy in the US and just globally. And to cover the agenda quickly and what we're going to talk about today, number one, the state of digital experience in retail. Number two, retail's previous booms and what the lookout looks like for 2024. Next, what can brands learn when they're looking to pivot and become increasingly aspirational or luxurious? How do we really increase brand prestige? So I'd like to welcome Monica. Monica, thank you so much for joining.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to this conversation.
Obviously, just having known you for a while, it's been really interesting to get your take on retail and get your perspective on what you're seeing consumers are adopting. And obviously, not only is kind of Psycho Bunny this amazing brand, but it's very innovative within its own right and what it's doing to garner attention from consumers. And I wanted to ask you, what would you say or define as the state of digital experience in retail?
Oh, great question. So, I've been in retail my whole work life, I would say, and I've been working for different retailers, like bigger brand where pretty established, and now at Psycho Bunny it's being very, very different and exciting. So the state of retail and in regards to digital, I would say is in constant evolution. I've been very interesting what happened to us, digital player, post coronavirus or during coronavirus, where we saw this boom of digital and everyone was running in order to optimize, create better experiences, and then we got all to play on the same field.
Oh.
We discover now post pandemic a world where retail and brick and mortar presence is really still very important, but digital really needed to become omnichannel. So it's not, I would say that we shouldn't look at under the lens, okay, what digital is doing, how the digital ecosystem is evolving and the retail space is evolving. It really comes together. For Psycho Bunny was, I would say, is a very different story where we really expanded our footprint in the brick and mortar during and post-pandemic very, very fast. And we noticed the digital experience and also the digital growth came along. Part of our strategy, and also I would say a lot of retailers out there, is really to create an experience that is very seamless for the customer, and it's not just about online versus offline. It's all of it. And we know that customers are going to search for product before, and then they're going to come into the store, or from the store they can order and get it to their homes. It's really about creating a fine balance and always think about the customer, where the customer is more comfortable into buying or discovering even your brand.
And one of the very interesting things that you were just talking about right now is that you were kind of leaning into physical retail when a lot of people were talking about its demise in a sort of fashion, but you all look at it as kind of this customer acquisition tool. Before we worked together, I had noticed Psycho Bunny stores all over the place. So, I was about like Waikiki Beach, I'd see a place. We were in Miami, I'd see a place. I would say like, wow, these stores are just popping up like crazy all over the place. I can't imagine the workload that required or the methodical thinking and saying, well, enough foot traffic happens here, so it's going to be great for brand awareness. What have you seen? Maybe the consumer demographics are slightly different for digital than for how people meet you in the physical world, but it's all leading to one thing, and that's growth. Have you noticed that consumers behave differently when they're being acquired?
That's a great question, and actually was part of our strategy and how I think we were deciding in opening stores in certain regional and areas. Our growth brick and mortar really started a couple of years ago. However, digital have been always super strong. We noticed organic growth into certain region, and I say, okay, it would be interesting to explore the market and serve the customer, I would say, with a location, knowing that there's already an awareness that comes from digital. Building awareness through store, yes, is helping us in order to continue to grow the way we're doing. But I would say also the opposite is valid, where the organic growth coming from digital allowed us to understand which area in the United States specifically we wanted to open more stores. And now that we are in a, I would say, almost mature level of physical presence, we see that growth online, and the omnichannel customer, the true omnichannel customer that buys in store and then buys online and buys often, it really stabilizes, and we will need to continue to curate that relationship. You touched a little bit before on acquisition and CRM and how we're going to acquire the right customer and how we're going to actually keep that customer with us and make them happy ultimately through the experience that is digital or in store. It's really, I would say, the day-to-day work that we do here.
Think of the Psycho Bunny consumer. It's a very diverse consumer. I'm saying that like a racial, ethnic perspective as well, because I've noticed that, you know, I'm Mexican. My parents are from Mexico. I was born in Houston. I realized that even kind of knowing people who are Hispanic, Psycho Bunny is very big. Texas, it was pretty big. Different like large artists who sing Spanish, they talk about Psycho Bunny. So it's really interesting to see kind of the cultural dynamic too. How do you feel about kind of Psycho Bunny embracing all of those different cultures? I think it's such a beautiful thing that not only has it been such a fast-growing brand, but I think it's a brand that's extremely relevant also from a cultural standpoint because it's so diverse.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, diversity is part of our, I would say, value proposition in the sense of we are trying to put quality at the forefront of what we do within the experience that is online, in store, and of course on our product. And we see that the customer, independently of their ethnicity, they just recognize the quality, but also the difference into the design and the style. And of course, our logo is something that really attract the consumer and say, okay, let me discover the brand. That's interesting. And then when they buy the first product, and we're very proud to see that we almost perfection the polo, they really understand the value of quality behind the garment.
More largely speaking, from a macro perspective, retail's boom insane, right? Most of the large luxury retailers, you know, you're talking about your Neiman Marcus, your Farfetch, they were having insane years throughout the COVID pandemic. And now this year, things are a lot more calm. Things are a lot slower. Different players have emerged and they're doing extremely well, whether they're independent brands or some companies are slightly they're plateauing or they're slowing down or decreasing. What do you think about this retail boom and then just larger slowdown? What are you seeing and what's your outlook for 2024?
Well, it really depends. There's no perfect recipe in retail, and I think pre and post coronavirus we learned a lot. All the assumptions have been made: digital first, store first, etc., etc. Everything has changed. So since 2022, I think has to be more about the customer. So, and where the customer is comfortable buying. And with a lot of players out there, you touched on it, they are emerging, is about curating your existing customer, making sure that the customer that bought with you keeps buying with you, but for a reason, and not just simple, I would say, retargeting or simple CRM technique. It's really about putting quality and value and explaining to the customer why they are important for us and why they should buy our brand. Unfortunately, I cannot comment on the performance, I would say, of the different retailers out there because I'm not aware of all the details. But the idea is really about that the customer became more savvy in the way that they shop. Of course, through digital, you in one click you can understand, can see the price of the same item from different retailer or similar. You can compare much more easily. And also with the player out there of, I would say, digital advertising, the customer, I would say, at times is a little bit overwhelmed by the offering out there. So I don't know, you open social media and you have a lot of ads and you're like, oh, should I buy this? Should I buy that? I think you go back and you buy what is top of mind for you. Thanks to the expansion with our stores and also the customer base, I think the customer was comfortable on coming back, knowing the quality of our product, knowing that the experience in the entire purchase journey was good for them. So they felt maybe going back and coming back better than, I don't know, discovering a new brand within that chaos that is out there. But that's just an assumption. I wouldn't know.
Because it kind of blends into the next section and kind of the final section of the video. This is something that we're having a lot of just companies come to us, whether they're a more traditional brand, whether it's in travel hospitality, or whether they're an airline, automotive, whatever it might be, clothing even. And they're looking to become more aspirational or more luxurious. A core component of that, when we look at the data, is always that there has to be a quality product or service. I mean, just a phenomenal quality product and service. And Psycho Bunny has obviously mastered having a garment that speaks to the caliber of being a phenomenal product. What can brands learn when they're looking to pivot and become more aspirational, luxurious?
Well, you touched on it. Quality, it's an important topic, because in order to be more prestigious or aspirational, you need to have a very strong baseline where you know that you can advertise your product and you can be sure when someone buys something as a good experience. And of course, then come back. So quality is at the forefront of what we do at all time. However, there's also another component of the unique value proposition. So what you want to propose to the customer, you as a brand, and when you wear Psycho Bunny in this case, or any other brand, what you stand for, what you try also to communicate, because we know clothing, it's a way of communicating, right? It's a communication tool. That it shouldn't be taken for granted. So, and I think here at Psycho Bunny, we reevaluate the unique value proposition, knowing that the quality is always there and it's always going to be there. What can we change and how we can adapt to our customer? And that's what I think year over year, we always reevaluate and understand, okay, how do we want to go to market? What are we trying to tell to the customer, knowing that quality is important, but what else? That would be the recommendation I would give it to other brand, if I even may call it recommendation. It's like, try to question it internally and try to understand, is that still valid? And I also think that every brand is on a different maturity level. There are certain brands that have a higher level of awareness and penetration in certain markets. So maybe the unique value proposition at that time was right, but then it's not right anymore. I think educate the customer who we are and what we stand for. And then for market a little bit more mature, change the approach. And this is executed in millions of ways, from advertising, email marketing, the digital experience, the store experience, et cetera, et cetera.
You know, it's a lot easier to retain that client than having to just go and acquire consistently. And then there's like this analogy of like a leaky bucket situation, right? So you're spending on this cash acquiring clientele, but if you don't have a great product, there's a hole at the bottom and you don't retain anything. And then you just end up spending all this money on trying to acquire new consumers that at the end of the day, you have no real sustainable stickiness occurring. So it sounds like Psycho Bunny is definitely getting closer and closer to just sealing every single part of that bucket and getting it there to where the retention is just at a phenomenal rate. Obviously, really admire you all as kind of a partner and having worked alongside you all. And it's been great to hear from you, Monica, what you're seeing in the space. And thank you so much for your time. Is there any other comment that you want to give to brands that are out there?
I would say sometimes along the way, when we're so busy working with our teams, we forget what's the most important thing. And I like to remind to everyone, customer has to be at the center of whatever we do, and thinking about how the customer is going to perceive this and how the customer is gonna see that we're going to put in market is the most important thing ultimately. So never forget about within the digital experience as well. Never forget about the customer.
Monica Provenza is a director of Omnichannel Experiences at Psycho Bunny. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You did a great job, Monica. That was really good.